Unit 51, describing things.
British Rail lost property, Waterloo.
Oh, good morning. I left my briefcase on the train this morning. I wondered if it had been handed in.
Which train, sir?
Sorry, the 747 from Bournemouth.
Can you describe the briefcase, sir?
Yes. It's sort of, well, an average size, rectangular, black leather briefcase with brass locks.
We've got rather a lot like that, sir. Did it have your name on it?
No, not my name. But it's got the initials JR near the handle.
Hang on then, sir. I'll just go and have a look.
Metropolitan Police.
My car's been stolen. It's gone.
Calm down, sir. Could I have your name and address?
Yes, Richard Lockwood, 3 Park Terrace, WC13.
May I have a description of the vehicle, sir?
It's a 1982 Escort, a silver blue 4-door 1300 GL model. Oh, and it's got a dark blue stripe along the sides and a dent in the near side front wing.
What's the registration, sir?
PSV 439Y.
Well, I've got good news for you, sir. It hasn't been stolen. It's been towed away. It was parked in a double yellow line. You can collect it from the police compound. And you better bring your checkbook with you.
Rebecca Truman speaking.
Mrs. Truman. This is Fox and Connor, the estate agents. I think we've found a house that you may be interested in.
Could you tell me something about it?
It's in Red Hill, near the station, as you requested. It's a rather attractive 4-bedroom 1930s red brick property. It's in very good decorative order with a fitted kitchen.
And the garden?
There's a large, mature garden. Would you like to view it?
Yes, I think it's worth a look. Could you put the details in the post?
Unit 52. Describing people. Listen to these people talking about their friends. Look at the example. Complete the other columns.
Donna. Well, she's quite a lively, talkative person in her late teens. She's fairly tall, with a good figure. She's got a heart-shaped face with a small sort of turned-up nose. It's very attractive, really. She's got long, black, wavy hair and blue eyes with very long eyelashes. Her complexion is, well, she's olive-skinned. Her lips are very full, and she's got dimples in her cheeks.
Colin, he's a very big guy, you know, well-built with very broad shoulders. Not fat, really, just well-built. He's in his early 30s. He's got a long face with thin lips. Oh, and a small scar on his chin. He's got very short, fair hair, but with long sideburns and a moustache. Eyes? I haven't really noticed the colour. He wears glasses. He's got thick eyebrows and a kind of a long, straight nose. He's fairly reserved, thoughtful, sometimes even moody.
Janet? She's sophisticated. Well-dressed, expensive hairstyle and so on. I'd say she was in her late 30s or early 40s, but she looks younger. She's about average height and very slim. Her hair's very blonde, dyed, I think, but I'm not sure about that. It's always very neat, not long. She's got pale grey eyes with thin eyebrows. Her face is always sunburned and very well made up. It's an attractive face. Not really beautiful, but very attractive. You know what I mean. High cheekbones, small chin. Oh, and yes, there's a beauty spot on her left cheek. She's a very calm and reliable sort of person. Very sociable and always very, very polite.
Robert? Oh, Robert's a wonderful person, really. He's elderly, but not old. Still very lively and amusing. He's probably in his early 70s. He's got white hair, receding a bit, and a small white beard. He's medium build, a little overweight, perhaps. He's got very nice large brown eyes, and he always seems to be smiling. Lots of wrinkles round the eyes. Laughter lines, I think you call them. He's got a very high-lined forehead, which makes him look very intelligent, which he is, of course.
Unit 53, Budget Day. The British government normally announces changes in taxation once a year. This usually happens in March, when the Chancellor of the Exchequer reads his budget proposals in the House of Commons. He outlines the changes in taxation which will balance government income and expenditure for the next year. Sometimes the changes in indirect taxation take effect immediately. Many people try to beat the budget by guessing which articles will increase in price and buying them before the Chancellor makes his announcement.
Hello, darling. You're late.
Yes, I went to the garage to get some petrol.
That only takes 5 minutes, doesn't it?
Not today. There was a queue halfway down the road.
Really? Why? There isn't another oil crisis, is there?
No, they were all filling their tanks to beat the budget. Everybody expects a big increase in tax on petrol. I bought 10 gallons. It says in the paper that they might increase taxes on electrical goods.
Perhaps we should buy that new fridge-freezer we were looking at. What do you think?
Yes, we need one anyway.
Can you get to the shop at lunchtime?
I'm afraid not. Look, we know how much it is. Why don't you write a cheque and send Stuart to buy it?
All right, if you're sure we can afford it.
It was an Electrolux 1241, wasn't it? Send him to get it at the showroom in Highfield Road. They had it on special offer.
Stuart, switch on the television, will you? I want to hear the news about the budget.
Right, Mum. And here are the major points about today's budget again. In order to raise £60 million, the government proposes to increase the duty on tobacco. This will mean an increase of 15p on a packet of cigarettes, which should please anti-smoking campaigners. The Chancellor has also increased the duty on beer, wines and spirits in order to raise an extra £400 million in revenue. The government has also increased petrol tax by 15% so as to encourage energy saving. Value-added tax has been reduced by 2% so as to stimulate the economy. This will mean that household goods, televisions, washing machines, fridges, etc. will go down in price.
Unit 54. Do it yourself.
Well, I'm very impressed by all the work you've done on your house, Mr. Miller. How long have you been working on it?
I first became interested in do-it-yourself several years ago. See, my son Paul is disabled. He's in a wheelchair. And I just had to make alterations to the house. I couldn't afford to pay workmen to do it. I had to learn to do it myself.
Have you had any experience of this kind of work? Did you have any practical skills?
No. I got a few books from the library, but they didn't help very much. Then I decided to go to evening classes so that I could learn basic carpentry and electrics.
What sort of changes did you make to the house?
First of all, practical things to help Paul. You never really realize the problems handicapped people have until it affects your own family. Most government buildings, for example, have steps up to the door. They don't plan buildings so that disabled people can get in and out. We used to live in a flat. Of course, it was totally unsuitable. Just imagine the problems a disabled person would have in your house. We needed a large house with wide corridors so that Paul could get from one room to another. We didn't have much money, and we had to buy this one. It's over 90 years old, and it was in a very bad state of repair.
Where did you begin?
The electrics. I completely rewired the house so that Paul could reach all the switches. I had to lower the light switches and raise the power points. I went on to do the whole house so that Paul could reach things and go where he wanted.
What else did you do?
By the time I'd altered everything for Paul, do-it-yourself had become a hobby. I really enjoyed doing things with my hands. Look, I even installed smoke alarms.
What was the purpose of that?
I was very worried about fire. You see, Paul can't move very quickly. I fitted them so that we would have plenty of warning if there were a fire. I put in a complete burglar alarm system. It took weeks. The front door opens automatically, and I'm going to put a device on Paul's wheelchair so that he'll be able to open and close it when he wants.
What are you working on now?
I've just finished the kitchen. I've designed it so that he can reach everything. Now I'm building an extension so that Paul will have a large room on the ground floor where he can work.
There's a £10,000 prize. How are you going to spend it?
I'm hoping to start my own business so that I can convert ordinary houses for disabled people. I think I've become an expert on the subject.
Unit 56, A New Way of Life.
On TV magazine tonight, we're looking at people who've given up regular jobs and high salaries to start a new way of life. First of all, we have 2 interviews with people who decided to leave the rat race. Nicola Burgess spoke to them.
This is the Isle of Skye. Behind me you can see the croft belonging to Daniel and Michelle Burns, who gave up their jobs to come to this remote area of Scotland. Daniel was the sales manager of High Vita, the breakfast cereal company, and Michelle was a successful advertising executive. Michelle, can you tell us what made you give up everything to come here?
Everything? That's a matter of opinion. A big house and 2 cars isn't everything. Dan and I both used to work long hours. We had to leave so early in the morning and we came home so late at night that we hardly ever saw each other. We should have come here years ago, but we were earning such big salaries that we were afraid to leave our jobs. In the end, we had so little time together that our marriage was breaking up. So, 2 years ago, we took a week's holiday in the Scottish Highlands. We saw this place, and we both fell in love with it. It was for sale, and we liked it so much that we decided to give up our jobs, and here we are.
How do you earn a living, if you don't mind me asking?
We don't need very much. We keep sheep and goats, grow our own vegetables. We've got a few chickens. It's a very simple life, and we're not in it for profit. We're still so busy that we work from 5 in the morning until 8 at night. But we're together. We're happier than we've ever been, and we're leading a natural life.
There must be some things you miss, surely.
I don't know. We knew such a lot of people in London, but they weren't real friends. We see our neighbours occasionally, and there's such a lot to do on the farm that we don't have time to feel lonely. At least we see each other now.
The motorbike I'm sitting on is a very special one. Special because it's been all the way around the world. It belongs to Luke Saunders, who has just returned to England after a 3-year motorcycle journey. Luke, what led you to leave your job and make this trip?
I worked in a car factory on the assembly line. All I had to do was put 4 nuts on the bolts that hold the wheels on. It's done by robots now, and a good thing, too. The job was so routine that I didn't have to think at all. I bought this Triumph 750cc bike second-hand, fitted 2 panniers on the back, and just set off for Australia.
What did you do for money?
I had a bit of money to start with, but of course it didn't last long, and I had to find work where I could. I've done so many different things. Picked fruit, washed up, worked as a mechanic.
How did people react to you? In India, for example.
Everywhere I went, the people were so friendly that problems seemed to solve themselves. There was such a lot of interest in the bike that it was easy to start a conversation. You know, often you can communicate without really knowing the language.
Did you ever feel like giving up, turning round and coming home?
Only once, in Bangladesh, I became so ill with food poisoning that I had to go to hospital, but it didn't last long.
You've had such an exciting time that you'll find it difficult to settle down, won't you?
I'm not going to. Next week I'm off again, but this time I'm going in the opposite direction. See you in about 3 years' time. Unit 57. Last of the airships?
At 7:20 p.m. on May the 6th, 1937, the world's largest airship, the Hindenburg, floated majestically over Lakehurst Airport, New Jersey, after an uneventful crossing from Frankfurt, Germany. There were 97 people on board for the first Atlantic crossing of the season. There were a number of journalists waiting to greet it. Suddenly, radio listeners heard the commentator screaming, "Oh my God! It's broken into flames! It's flashing! Flashing! It's flashing terribly!" 32 seconds later, the airship had disintegrated and 35 people were dead. The age of the airship was over.
The Hindenburg was the last in a series of airships which had been developed over 40 years in both Europe and the United States. They were designed to carry passengers and cargo over long distances. The Hindenburg could carry 50 passengers accommodated in 25 luxury cabins with all the amenities of a first-class hotel. All the cabins had hot and cold water and electric heating. There was a dining room, a bar, and a lounge with a dance floor and the baby grand piano. The Hindenburg had been built to compete with the great luxury transatlantic liners. It was 245 meters long, with a diameter of 41 meters. It could cruise at a speed of 125 kilometers per hour and was able to cross the Atlantic in less than half the time of a liner. By 1937, it had carried 1,000 passengers safely and had even transported circus animals and cars. Its sister ship, the Graf Zeppelin, had flown 1.5 million kilometers, and it had carried 13,100 passengers without incident. The Hindenburg was filled with hydrogen, which is a highly flammable gas, and every safety precaution had been taken to prevent accidents. It had a smoking room, which was pressurized in order to prevent gas from ever entering it. The cigarette lighters were chained to the tables, and both passengers and crew were searched for matches before entering the ship. Special materials, which were used in the construction of the airship, had been chosen to minimize the possibility of accidental sparks, which might cause an explosion. Nobody knows the exact cause of the Hindenburg disaster. Sabotage has been suggested, but experts at the time believed that it was caused by leaking gas, which was ignited by static electricity. It had been waiting to land for 3 hours because of heavy thunderstorms. The explosion happened just as the first mooring rope, which was wet, touched the ground. Observers saw the first flames appear near the tail, and they began to spread quickly along the hull. There were a number of flashes as the hydrogen-filled compartments exploded. The airship sank to the ground. The most surprising thing is that 62 people managed to escape. The fatalities were highest among the crew, many of whom were working deep inside the airship. After the Hindenburg disaster, all airships were grounded, and until recently they have never been seriously considered as a commercial proposition.
Unit 59. The Knowledge.
Becoming a London taxi driver isn't easy. In order to obtain a license to drive a taxi in London, candidates have to pass a detailed examination. They have to learn not only the streets, landmarks and hotels, but also the quickest way to get there. This is called the knowledge by London cab drivers, and it can take years of study and practice to get the knowledge. Candidates are examined not only on the quickest routes, but also on the quickest routes at different times of the day. People who want to pass the examination spend much of their free time driving or even cycling around London, studying maps and learning the huge street directory by heart. Monty Hunter is taking the examination now. Listen to the examiner's question and try to follow Monty's directions on the map of London.
Okay, Monty. Ready? You're outside Buckingham Palace, and you've just picked up a passenger who wants to go to St. Paul's Cathedral. It isn't the rush hour. Use the most direct route.
I go straight along the Mall, round the one-way system at Trafalgar Square, and turn into Northumberland Avenue. I turn left along the embankment and carry on as far as Blackfriars Bridge. Turn left into New Bridge Street, then right at Ludgate Circus and up Ludgate Hill to St. Paul's.
Travelling on the London Underground, the Tube, presents few difficulties for visitors because of the clear, colour-coded maps. It's always useful to have plenty of spare change with you, because there are often long queues at the larger stations. If you have enough change, you can buy your ticket from a machine. You will find signs which list the stations in alphabetical order with the correct fares near the machines. There are automatic barriers which are operated by the tickets. You should keep the ticket because it's checked at the destination. Listen to these people talking about the underground map and follow their routes on the map. Peter and Susan have just arrived at Victoria.
Right. We've got to get to Baker Street. Can you see it?
Yes, it's up here. It looks easy enough. We just take the Victoria line to Green Park, then change to the Jubilee line. That goes straight there. It's only the second stop from Green Park.
Laura is at the inquiry office at King's Cross.
Oh, excuse me. How do I get to King's Road, Chelsea? I mean, which is the nearest tube station?
You want Sloane Square? Take a look at this map. The best way is to take the Victoria line. That's this light blue one, as far as Victoria Station. Then you'll have to change. When you get to Victoria, follow the signs for the Circle and District lines. They're on the same platform. Then take the first eastbound train. It doesn't matter which one it is. Sloane Square's the next stop.
Thank you very much indeed.
Simon and Elizabeth are at Waterloo.
Where's a map?
There's one over here. They said the hotel was near Russell Square. Can you see it?
Yes, it's up here, in the top right of the map. Look, I reckon we should take the Bakerloo as far as Piccadilly Circus, then change to the Piccadilly line. That's the dark blue one. It's only 4 stops to Russell Square.
Are you sure that's the quickest way? We could take the Northern line, it's the black one, to Leicester Square and join the Piccadilly line there.
There's not much in it, really. Might as well take the Northern. You got any change for the ticket machine? It's 60. The 8 o'clock news.
Good evening, and here is the 8 o'clock news. 5,000 people marched through the streets of Chesilworth today, protesting against plans for a new international airport near the town. Although there was such a large number of demonstrators, there was no trouble. The demonstrators marched to the town hall, where a public inquiry into the plans was taking place, and handed in a petition to the chairman of the inquiry. A new airport is needed because the other airports in the London area are overcrowded. Several sites for the new airport have been suggested, and Chesilworth was considered because it is near both a major motorway and a railway line. Although it was a protest march, there was almost a carnival atmosphere, and both demonstrators and police remained good-humored. Families were evacuated from 4 streets in the centre of Glasgow today because of a gas explosion. The explosion occurred at 10 a.m. in a deserted house in Mickle Street. Gas board officials believe that the explosion was due to leaking gas. The house had been empty for several months, and they suspect that a gas main had cracked because of vibration from roadworks in the street. Windows 100 meters away were broken by the blast. The police have forbidden anyone to enter the area until the gas board has completed tests. Air-sea rescue helicopters from RAF Sopwith were called out after a yacht capsized in a storm off the Devon coast. Despite high seas, the helicopters lowered rescue teams to try and save the crew. 2 men and a girl were pulled to safety. Unfortunately, the other 2 crew members died in spite of the rescue team's efforts. One was lost at sea, the other was rescued and taken to hospital, but was dead on arrival. The Coast Guard had warned small boats to stay in the harbour, but the yacht, the Neptune III from Poole, had set out for France despite the warnings. Fernside Engineering announced today that they are closing their plant in Tadworth. 300 jobs will be lost because of the closure, which is due to a sharp decline in orders for their products. There have been rumours for several weeks that the plant might be closed, and in spite of lengthy discussions between unions and management, closure became inevitable because of the cancellation of several major orders. As well as the 300 redundancies at Tadworth, union leaders predict further redundancies in the area in firms which supply Fernside Engineering with components. Reports are coming in of a 100 miles per hour car chase through the roads of Hampshire. Police disturbed a gang of men who were breaking into a chemist's in Linford. However, the men escaped in a stolen Jaguar saloon, and the police chased them through the New Forest at high speed. The Jaguar was forced off the road near Bransley. The men were armed with shotguns, but nevertheless police officers chased them across a field. Several shots were fired. Fortunately, however, no one was injured, and the men were taken into custody. Brighton Belle the 14th, a 4-year-old Dalmatian bitch, became the supreme champion dog at Crufts Dog Show in London. There were almost 10,000 dogs on show, worth around £8 million. There were 120 judges looking at 144 different breeds of dog. Brighton Belle the 14th is expected to earn up to £100,000 in breeding and advertising fees. And lastly, sport. Eastfield United are through to the next round of the European Cup after an exciting match in Scotland. Dunroman Rangers scored twice in the first half, and although Eastfield were 2 down at half-time, they went on to win with a hat-trick by Trevor Franklin in the second half. Towards the end of the second half, Franklin was limping because of a knee injury, but nevertheless managed to score the winning goal 1 minute from time. The game was stopped twice because of fighting in the crowd. But in spite of the trouble and in spite of the appalling weather, both teams played well. Viewers will be able to see highlights of the match after the news.
Unit 62, the annual dinner dance.
Every year, Continental Computers holds an annual dinner and dance, to which all employees and their husbands and wives are invited. It is the only time of the year when all the employees get together socially. Christopher Simpson is a young accounts clerk. He's speaking to Edward Wallace, the Chief Personnel Officer.
Mr. Wallace, can I buy you a drink?
Oh, that's very kind of you, Christopher. I'll have a scotch, a large one.
Ice?
No, just a splash of soda, please. Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, what was happening about the job in Sheffield?
It's being advertised next week. Are you interested?
I might be. I really don't know what to do. I'm quite happy here, but it would be a promotion. Do you think I should apply?
Why not? There's no harm in trying. I'll tell you what to do. Pop up and see me on Monday, and I'll tell you what I can about the job.
Martin Webber is a computer programmer. He's at the dance with his wife, Melanie.
Melanie, do you have to flirt with Philip every time we come to a dance?
Oh, you were only dancing. There's no need to get jealous.
I saw what he was doing. He was whispering to you.
Oh, Martin, you don't know what you're talking about. He had to speak into my ear because of the music. How many drinks have you had?
Oh, come on. That's got nothing to do with it.
Do you want to hear what he said?
I don't care what he said.
He was asking me what he should buy for his wife's birthday. That's all.
Jacqueline Dibben works in the marketing department. She's just met Fiona Johnson, who's in charge of advertising.
Ah, Jackie. So, you're back from New York.
Yes, Fiona. I've been doing market research there.
I know. How did you get on?
Well, what I saw in the States astonished me. Really. I think there'll be a lot of demand for our new 2CL home computer.
That's very interesting.
Yes. What I heard was very encouraging. We've got just what they're looking for.
Sir Joseph Lennox is the managing director. He's just run into Alex Fielding, one of the union representatives.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Fielding.
Good evening, Sir Joseph.
Did you get my message about the meeting on Monday?
Yes, I did. But I'm still not absolutely sure what the meeting's about. Not bad news, I hope.
No. Don't worry. It's good news, in fact. What we'd like to do is expand production of the new home computer. Either we'll have to increase overtime working or take on new staff.
That sounds promising. What we'll need to know is exactly how much more work will be created.
I'll give you all the facts and figures on Monday, but let's forget about all that now. We don't want to talk shop tonight, do we? That's not what this evening's all about. Another drink?
Please.
Kelly's the secretary, and
Teresa works in the data processing department.
Hey, Teresa. Wasn't that Neil Pincher you were dancing with?
Yes. Do you know what he asked me?
No.
He invited me out for dinner.
You're not going, are you?
No fear. I've heard all about him. I wouldn't go out with him if he was the last man on earth.
So what did you say?
What I wanted to say was, go to hell. But I just told him I was busy.
Unit 63, The Apprentice.
It's Alan Newman's first day in his first job. He started work in an electrical components factory. The personnel officer, Mrs. Vaughan, is introducing him to Bert Hogg, who has worked there for 30 years.
Alan, this is Bert. Bert Hogg. You'll be working with him.
Morning, Mr. Hogg.
You can call me Bert, son. Don't worry, I'll show you what to do.
Can I leave him with you then, Bert?
Oh, yes, Mrs. Vaughan. I'll look after him. Follow me, son. Right, son, any questions?
Yes. Now, where can I leave my coat and things?
There's a row of lockers over there. It doesn't matter which one you use. Take whichever one you want.
Oh, thanks. And I've got my national insurance card here. Who should I give it to?
You should have given it to Mrs. Vaughan. I don't suppose she asked you for it. Just take it up to the office. You can give it to whoever is there. They'll pass it on to her.
Well, when can I do that?
Doesn't matter, really. Take it whenever you like, lad. But I'll give you a tip. Don't take it during the tea break. You know what I mean?
Right. Thanks. Oh, another thing. Where can I leave my motorbike?
There's plenty of room in the car park. Just don't put it in a numbered space. They're reserved for the directors' cars. But apart from that, you can leave it wherever there's room. Come on, I'll show you where you'll be working. This is our bench. Just watch me and do whatever I tell you. Okay?
Okay.
First of all, you can clean these tools. There's a bottle of white spirit on the shelf.
All right. Is there any special way of doing it?
Eh? Special way? No, son, no. Clean them however you want. There's no special way. Oi, Alan, you can stop work for a bit. It's time for the tea break.
Oh, thanks.
Don't thank me, son. You've done well. You'll need a cup of tea. Oh, look, after the tea break, I want you to go to the stores and get me a few things. Is that all right?
Oh, yes. I'll get whatever you want.
Good lad. Now, I'll need a tin of striped paint, a rubber hammer, and a glass nail, a left-handed screwdriver, and a bucket of steam. Oh, and tell them Bert sent you.
Morning.
Morning.
I've come to get a tin of striped paint.
A what? Whatever are you talking about, son?
A tin of striped paint. I want a tin of striped paint.
Whoever told you to come and get that?
Bert. Bert Hogg.
Oh, Bert Hogg. What colour stripes would you like, son?
Oh, I'm not sure. Perhaps I'd better ask him.
I suppose he asked you to get a right-handed screwdriver as well.
No, he wants a left-handed one.
Just stop and think for a minute, lad. Just stop and think.